Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to our capital ship breakdown video, where we are going to be telling you all everything we know about the capital ships from the new trailer that we received this past weekend. There's so much to get through about how these encounters work, exactly how you are going to be taking down these large capital ships, and what you're going to be able to do once you've taken them over. There's some really cool details that are kind of obscured, which are hidden throughout this entire discussion, so we can't wait to unpack this for you all. So make sure that you stick around until the end to learn exactly how this works, because honestly, this is probably the most excited I've been for this game, just talking about these things. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick. Nick, you've got a few announcements, don't you?
Yep, I do. First, if you are new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time Andreas and I upload. Now, second, for our official sponsor segment, usually I would throw this to my main man, Bosk, but given the overall feeling of this video and the sentiment of this video, I'm actually going to ask a question to our other main man, General Grievous. Now, General Grievous, I know that you abandoned your capital ship. I would never do that, and I know Andreas would never do that. Do you have any answers for that? Why would you do that?
Please, I try to run.
Alright, you know what? Fair enough. I would expect no other response from our favorite asthmatic Kalish Space General, so you got me, man. Let's just get into this video.
This is Lunar Squadron standing by. We are ready to make the jump to hyperspace. On my mark, Lunar Squadron.
You guys all heard that right. Today we are talking about the capital ships in this game. I don't know about you, Nick, but this is honestly like the one thing, other than the Death Star, that I am most excited for in this game. Just looking at, for example, this clip of Obi-Wan and Anakin's Jedi Starfighters kind of clipping that Venator-class Star Destroyer, like, oh my god. These things are massive, and I'm very excited to play with them.
Yeah, me too. You know, I absolutely love capital ships when it comes to Star Wars. The Venators, the Star Destroyers, all of those. I just think they're such cool key components of Star Wars, and they're always so cool, like the designs. And so I'm so excited to just have this new way to experience LEGO Star Wars with these capital ships. And honestly, Andreas, we actually got a pretty good look at how we think these encounters are going to go down, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think really the first thing that we learned here, and we've kind of known this, is that there are going to be random capital ship encounters in this game. So you're going to be minding your own business, kind of flying throughout space, and then there is going to be some sort of event which randomly triggers, which will ultimately kind of pull you into this battle. Nick, do you want to go ahead and kind of break down what we learned from this new gameplay, where we got to see kind of this encounter start for the first time with actual gameplay with this trailer?
We actually got to look at what we believe to be the start of this capital ship encounter. If you take a look at the shot, you see Poe Dameron's X-Wing, and then you see this banner that says, "Seize the Steadfast, encounter joined." We believe this is the beginning of this encounter. Now, the main thing I want to point out here, and I think what is the most important thing about this shot, is this green sort of globe grid that is surrounding the encounter. Now, what I think this is this is the airspace that is going to just contain this entire encounter. You have to remain within that airspace, within this globe, to stay involved with the capital ship. So I think how this is going to work is you will actually have to enter the airspace surrounding the capital ship to trigger this event. I think this is pretty straightforward. But I also think you will be able to leave this airspace. This is kind of a boundary that has been made. So if you no longer want to partake in this, if you're kind of sick of it, you can just leave the airspace, the encounter is over, and you can come back to it at a later time when you want to, or when these random encounters pop up again. I really think that's what's going on with this green grid. I think it's just kind of designating the overall boundaries and airspace of where this encounter is taking place.
Yeah, and I mean, we've definitely seen this grid before. I believe we saw it earlier. However, it was a red grid when we last saw it with the Executor class Star Dreadnought, as they're calling it, or the Super Star Destroyer. And I guess one of the main things that I take away from this grid is look how far back the grid is. In both of these shots, this kind of implies that, you are going to be able to travel kind of far distances in space in this game, which is just very good to see. And it's just a very welcome feature in the game, the expansive nature of it. Again, you can see the red grid here wrapped around the Trade Federation battleship space. And how I would like this to operate in this game is, just like you were saying, Nick, this is a limit, which means you can kind of escape this encounter, right? And how I would like this to work is, I know this game is supposed to be for everyone, but I would love if some of these capital ships are incredibly difficult to take over at the start, and that you kind of have to leave, and then maybe equip yourself, level up your ships, come back, and then take over the ship. I just think that would make for some really cool gameplay here. Now, speaking of taking over these ships, Nick, what are we sort of expecting by way of taking over these ships? What did we learn from this new trailer, and what are some of our thoughts on how we can expect to take over these capital ships in this game?
Yeah, so we actually believe it's going to be a multi-stage process when it comes to taking over these capital ships, and it's going to start off with getting into the command ship. That's the most important part, right? Is you actually have to be able to land within the hangar of the command ship. Now, how exactly we think this is going to go down is actually very similar to the OG Battlefront 2 days, if you remember the space battles from those, where you had to destroy certain key spots of the command ship to, bring the shields down, destroy the deck, stuff like that. You got to get rid of the defenses on these capital ships. And we actually believe we get a pretty good look at this multiple times in this gameplay trailer.
Yeah, we do. I think the first time we see it is of that Trade Federation battleship, or the droid command ship, or the Lucrehulk class ship, which, there are just a million names for this ship, aren't there? We do see that there are several highlighted areas on this ship, which seem to be areas that you are going to have to target if you do want to gain access into the capital ship. These are also accompanied by a general health bar at the top of the screen. You can clearly see that in this shot of, I have to out them for this shot of Obi-Wan flying in Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. I don't know what Obi-Wan is doing in Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. Maybe Anakin left a Crunchwrap Supreme in there. Who knows?
No!
Let her go, Anakin! Let her go!
What we do know is that there are plenty of turrets that you're going to have to take out. There looks like there's a bridge that you have to take out, maybe a communications array. I'm thinking just like the old OG Battlefront 2, just like you were saying, Nick. And then we do get to see the system yet again with the Steadfast. This time, interestingly enough, the top says ship defenses. It doesn't say Steadfast, whereas the other health bar said the name of the ship. This one says ship defenses. Not sure why that is. And then it has highlighted all of the turbo laser cannons on the surface of the Steadfast. You get to see Poe Dameron's X-Wing systematically wiping these things out along the top of the Steadfast to ultimately gain access to the Steadfast. And then we ultimately see that same X-Wing board the Steadfast. How cool do these hangars look, Nick?
They look incredibly cool, but before we go all fangirl, fanboy over these hangars, I just do want to say one thing that I did notice from this gameplay trailer, is the fact that when you are attacking these command ships, I see no signs of enemy fighters that you also have to take down. Now, I know there will be a dogfighting encounter in this game, in a dogfighting mode, but I really noticed with both the Trade Federation ship and with the First Order Star Destroyer, there doesn't appear to be any sort of enemy fighters that you have to fend off. It looks like you're really just going after the capital ship defenses here. Just kind of an interesting thing I noticed. I don't know if they're just off camera and it's just a rough shot of the overall gameplay, but I just noticed it. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I think that definitely is a great point to make here. It definitely drives a wedge between the two encounter modes that we are going to see in this game. We also did see that dogfight mode, which we can always get into in a later video. However, this time around, we're talking about the big boys. We're talking about these capital ships. And it wouldn't be a cool capital ship if you weren't able to board it, would it, Nick? This is something that we've been wanting, again, since that OG Battlefront 2. This is something that everybody wanted to see a new Battlefront 3 do, and LEGO is here giving it to us finally, which is just so awesome. Now, once you are finally on board a capital ship, we know that you will be met with somewhat of a boss battle once you're inside, right, Nick?
You sure do, Andreas. And actually, there's a couple things I want to bring up here. One, this shot right here of Poe fighting off this ATSD is perhaps the shot that has me the most excited for this game, just from the sheer size of the hangar of this capital ship. It's just one of those shots that really just, to me, showcases how big this game is going to be. I know that's something we've brought up a lot over the last few months, but damn, this shot got me hyped. And two, I kind of want to bring up a question to you, Andreas, and kind of a point of conversation is, do we think we just have to take over these hangars to take over the command ship? Or do you think we're going to have to kind of clear out the entire command ship? We're going to have to go all the way up to the deck and clear enemies, and once we do that, then we take over the command ship? Or do you think once we kind of finish this little mini-boss battle, clear out the hangar, magically, command ship is ours, everything's good, heroes win the day, all of that? What do you think?
I totally think this is going to depend on which capital ship you are ultimately going to be taking over. For example, we already know from the gameplay overview trailers that taking over the Invisible Hand, per se, is going to be a more extended process where you're going to make your way all the way up to the bridge of that ship. Also, I believe other main or bigger capital ships are going to require more stages to ultimately take over. I'm talking about the Super Star Destroyer or the Supremacy. We even get to see a look of inside the hangar of the Supremacy, and you can see it's not just one or two ATSTs inside the Supremacy. It is TIE fighters lining the roof. It is Captain Phasma is there shooting at you. And I know this is accompanied by a story mission of this game. However, I do believe that we can maybe expect some bigger capital ships, which will put on more of a show in terms of the boss battle, which is just so exciting to think about. If they're capable of doing it with this shot, I totally expect them to pull that bunny out of the hat again, which would just be so cool to see. Now, I think the final question that we want to hit on in this video is perhaps the most exciting point, and maybe even the most overlooked point, and that is, what are we going to be able to do with these capital ships once we ultimately take them over? And I think there is one brief shot in this recent trailer that kind of shows what we can expect to use these capital ships for. I'm talking about these terminals here, which you can see clearly have a glow in front of them, indicating that, or almost inviting you to walk up to them, where you can then see that the screen flickers and ultimately switches to an X-Wing. What I believe these terminals are going to be is these are going to be stations where you can request whichever ships you have unlocked in the game, which will ultimately appear in the hangar, making the hangars of these capital ships act as sort of garages where you can ultimately go to once you've taken them over as a spawning point for your hard-earned vehicles in this game. And now we know from this trailer that some of these vehicles are going to be pretty sizable as well. I'm talking about, the Consular ship, the Naboo Royal Starship. Some of these are going to be very expansive and very cool. We do see later on in the trailer the Steadfast ultimately having been taken over. You can see that it, doesn't appear to be any sort of challenge. It is just a location that you go to. So I assume that once you take over the capital ship, you can start actually utilizing it. So there's just a lot to be excited about with all of these details, right, Nick?
Yeah, there sure are. And I think the big question that has been surrounding these capital ships ever since this was a mode that was announced in this game is, how controllable are these command ships? Are these the types of ships that you can fly around like you see these X-Wings and Millennium Falcons flying around, how controllable they are? Do we think that is something we're going to be able to do with these Star Destroyers? Honestly, Andreas, when I think about it, I really think these capital ships are more going to be like you said, a garage. Mobile garages. It's going to be like a mobile base in the airspace surrounding these planets. I kind of think back to like the yachts in GTA Online or the apartment buildings if you've played that game, where they're kind of just like home bases. They're storage units for you and your character in the game. I'm not quite convinced anymore that you'll be able to like fully operate and control and fly around one of these command ships. I really think it's going to serve more of that base role.
I kind of tend to agree with you here, and maybe separate of some story mission where you maybe have to, steer the invisible hand onto the runway on Coruscant, for example, or something like that, which is more of an on-the-rails experience. I really don't see this game allowing us to just take full control of one of these behemoths in the game. Like they said, millions of Lego pieces. If you had built these in real life, it would span 100 yards, the size of an American football field. These are massive ships, and it's almost too good to be true to think that you could actually fly these without them having shown that. If I were selling this game, that'd be the first thing I would show. So again, I just want to tamper expectations on that front. However, I do think that this new encounter mode will be groundbreaking for LEGO games. It'll be groundbreaking for Star Wars games, and I do think that this game will ultimately almost parallel the best of what we have seen from capital ship encounters in gaming to date, which is very excited to think about, and it's just one of those things that gets me so stoked about this game. Again, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the capital ships. Do you think that we're going to be able to fly these around? Let us know in the comments down below. We'd be happy to read what you guys have to say about that. Also, let us know any other areas of the trailer that you would love to see us break down. We're always open to ideas, and I know we in part made this video because a lot of you guys took to the comments asking for a capital ship breakdown. So thank you for being involved in the channel in that regard. Thank you also for watching the video. However, that's going to do it for this one, and as always, we will see you all next time.